What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. White people says it's awkward being white in the West, which I find kind of weird, right? Seeing how they got, all the privileges, you know, they've created all the institutions that make everybody uncomfortable, and I don't think white people know what it's like to step into a room and have everybody stare at you and look down upon you instantly, simply because of the color of your skin, right? So, I mean, I don't know what they consider awkward, but I guess to them, you know, it's awkward being them, right? And it doesn't seem like white people want to be white anyway, right? I mean, for all the privileges they're supposed to provide, which I haven't yet to figure out what privilege these white folks have gotten, right? Because poor white folks don't get shit, right? The rich ones, they get everything, right? But I want to give these white folks who I be banging on, right, an opportunity to talk. Like, what they got to say? From what perspective are they talking from? All right, I like to hear what the enemy got to say. We can meet in the battlefield and have negotiations to see if we need to have this battle of attrition. We can have a little one-on-one. I grab my champion, grab your champion. We can duke it out in the middle of the field, and whoever wins, and we can end it there. Or we can just go have an all-out melee. This is what you want, right? But I want to give them an opportunity to tell us how they feel, so we can know where all this where all this is coming from, because they seem to feel like they're being discriminated against. White folks don't like being told they can't be racist. They don't like being told they can't discriminate. They don't like that. They want to be able to say the N word the way they want to say it with the hard ER without being held accountable for their actions. Right? They don't like being held. It's really uncomfortable for people to tell them about themselves. They don't like that. It's they can't cope with that. Even though their activities and actions have made life weird and awkward for millions upon millions of people, consistently, constantly, right? A consistent flow of pressurized racism towards black people on full blast, POCs on half blast, right? And they don't understand why other groups of people would not like that and would not want that to continue and would want to tell them about it. And them being told about it, being held accountable by any measurement, right, for the last couple of years. Just keep in mind, they're not being lynched. They're not being genocide. Well, they're genociding each other. They're not being murdered, even though they're murdering each other. So they are doing that. But that's white on white crime. They like that stuff because they rather have their guns than safety for their children, right? Right? They're not being attacked or they're not being discriminated against at the workplace unless they say something racist. They say something racist, then they get discriminated against, and then they cry and they get a GoFundMe and they get paid millions of dollars by other racist white people who support racist white people, like the white woman who called a disabled child baby on a playground a nigger, and then the white Americans said, let's support that white woman and make her a millionaire in solidarity for her right to call a mentally ill black child a nigga with a hard ER. That's white America. All right? That person gets support. Because God, white people are being held down because they can't call little black disabled child niggas without, suffering any type of consequences. So yeah, that's the America we live in. And of course, because they can't do that, it's kind of awkward for them. So let's hear what these white folks who don't seem to think that their activities should be held accountable for on any measure. Let's hear what they got to say. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. It's out for Think Tank. Learn something, teach some. I'm out.
I want to talk about being white because it's awkward and in many cases very much frowned upon. White people have been accused of so many crimes. They've been called racist or white supremacist or neo-Nazi for simply wanting to preserve their own cultures and their own race. Every culture wants that, every race wants that, but for some reason now it's bad when white people want to. Even white people have prejudice against white people. I almost swiped left on my partner, Edward, who's a super white Norwegian guy. I almost passed on him because he was white. I speak three languages, which is extremely rare as a white American, and because I've traveled a lot early in my life, which is also pretty rare for white Americans. I had it in my head that Edward was a stereotypical empty-headed, that dopey white guy you see on TV and movies. That was racism I had against my own race. I didn't yet know that racism can be programmed into us by our media. Seriously, how many TV shows do you watch where the white guy is the idiot in the room, right? I recently saw a video clip of Muhammad Ali talking about how not racist it is to want to be around people who look like you and have similar traditions and culture. This isn't unique to any one race. Everybody feels good doing this. He said bluebirds fly with bluebirds, red birds fly with red birds, white birds with white birds, brown with brown, and so on. In so many ways, I see racism as a weapon against all of us, including white people. There are literally Arabs and Jews and Africans and Latinos who have extreme racism against white people, but this goes ignored because our sick society has conditioned people to accept it as justified because white people have been labeled as the source of all evil. There are powers out there trying to get rid of the white race because they believe it is, quote, a cancer on the earth. Come on, really? Isn't such a wicked and hateful ideology the real cancer here? It doesn't matter what color you are. Assholes come in all different shapes, all different sizes, colors, religions, and so do conscious thinkers. Character is what matters, not color. We are under attack on all sides to turn against each other, to pit people against people when the real war is people versus power. If you want to stand up to power and transcend the matrix of lies in a peaceful, enlightened way with other souls from all backgrounds all over the world, you will love what we're up to inside the Conscious Rebels Network. Go to the link in my profile or head to consciousrebelsnetwork.com to learn more. Join the movement to leave the lies behind. Let's get free.
The Democrats openly hate white men. They mock the white man as he says he wants to preserve his culture and his race, and they call that racist. While all the minorities and black people in this country and in Senate and Congress keep saying how they want to push the white man out, that the white man is their enemy. Saying that ain't racist, that's called progress. But if you're white and you want to preserve your race and keep this country white and Christian, you somehow is a racist, even though all of the minorities and the brown people want to up their population to what? Push out the white man. But that's not racist. That's progress. And now white men like me that speak out about this shit is being called racist. People are saying, I'm calling you out, white rabbit. Why? Because I'm proud to be white and I want to see my race persevere? How I speak against minorities that openly say they hate me because of the color of my skin and then somehow mask that as progress and not fucking open racism? Now, there might be some people on here that are racist, but they're not calling for the death and the elimination of that race. They're saying, I just don't like you. I want you to stay the fuck away from me. That's not racist. That's just telling you how you feel. Because 98% of the shit that you call racist is just an insult. It's not racist.
Why is it considered so controversial and racist to justify the existence and continuation of my own people who are being systematically destroyed? We are the real worldwide minority at less than 7%, yet only our homes that our ancestors built or the places that we're native to are being forced to take in millions of foreign people who either do not contribute anything positive and only bring chaos, division, and crime into our home, or they've been brainwashed to hate us, yet they only want to come into the countries that we built. They're not going anywhere else. They're only coming to countries that white people created. While we are being gaslit to believe that our own genocide and replacement is a good thing, they went from saying it wasn't happening and it was a far-right conspiracy to saying now that it is happening and it's a good thing. That this is progress, they call it. The erasure of my people is progress to evil, psychopathic communists that are clearly trying to destroy white people. And we should all know why by now. Why it's so controversial, why it's considered racist. They call you names like fascist and racist and all these other isms to dehumanize you so they don't feel bad when they kill you.
White people are being replaced in their homelands, and that needs to stop. In the same way that I wouldn't want Japanese people to become a minority in Japan, I don't want Canadians, meaning people of European descent whose ancestors founded, settled, and built this nation, to become a minority here in Canada, their homeland. I want all people to thrive and to have a homeland, including Canadians. It's worth noting that white people are the global minority, hovering at about 8% of the total population of the world, down significantly from about 36% in 1900. Politicians keep telling us in the West that we need mass immigration because our birth rates are below replacement levels. But that's presuming this trend continues endlessly. But historically, birth rates rise and fall in nations, depending on shifts in socioeconomic conditions, cultural norms, healthcare improvements, and even unforeseen events. But that's no reason to completely replace the demographic of your country. In fact, I would argue that it's highly immoral and wrong to do so. Even our friends who have immigrated here from places like the Philippines or Indonesia are noticing this rapid and radical shift in demographics, and are also telling us that this is wrong. Think about it. They moved to this country years ago because of its values, its culture, its ways. Things that are a direct reflection of the people who built and established them over generations. If you replace those people, you no longer have that country. I'm not saying immigration can't be a good thing, but it's become a tool to completely shift the demographic of this nation, a tool often used by politicians or corporations to bring in cheap labor or a larger voting base to remain in power. This isn't for the genuine good of Canadians or even the people being brought here. And the so-called elites aren't even hiding it anymore. The United Nations even has a 143-page document about replacing the native populations of Western nations like Canada. If this type of strategy were being implemented in any other part of the world would be up in arms. But only the West is being forced to slip silently into the night, into oblivion. Westerners have been trained to look at immigrants as if they are the minorities. But in reality, there are only about 25 million white Canadians on planet Earth, while there are over 1.4 billion Indian people and over 1.4 billion Chinese people on planet Earth. It doesn't take long for those so-called minorities to become a majority in any country. And that's what's happening. White people are projected to become a minority in Canada in the coming decades, if not sooner with current mass immigration trends, and are already minorities in many major cities across the country. And with the Century Initiative being pushed by politicians and lobby groups to increase Canada's population to 100 million in less than 80 years, well, you won't have Canada for very much longer. It's not wrong to want white Canadians to remain the demographic majority of this country, or to consider the essential identity of Canada to be bound in its European and Christian heritage. If we do not openly say this, we are fighting a losing battle for the future of Canada and our people. It's time to stand up for a glorious and free nation where Canadians can be preserved, along with their culture and heritage for generations to come.
White people can receive racism too. But historically, all of the racism that white people have received has been from other white people. The racism that Irish, Jewish, and Polish people have received has always been from other white people. This is why the term white is exclusive and why it isn't a community. They exclude people who they deem to be not as white. You could be phenotypically white, you could appear white. People that consider themselves the whitest of them all will still invent a reason to discriminate against you. This racism against other white people is still upholding white supremacy. It's not upholding black or brown supremacy. It's not black or brown people discriminating against white people. And this is why it's not the same. Black and brown people aren't the ones holding the power discriminating against white people. It's white people holding all the power discriminating against other white people. So it's still upholding white supremacy.
I don't know who needs to hear this today, but up until like 5 minutes ago, the Smithsonian Institution, the largest museum complex in the world, actually believed that these were exclusive elements of whiteness and white culture among humanity. Self-reliance, the nuclear family, objective, rational, linear thinking, history focusing on the success of Western civilization over other cultures, hard work as the key to success, planning for your future and managing your time appropriately, celebrating Christian holidays like Christmas, white culture, justice, just as a concept, including common law and protection of private property, making decisions, avoiding conflict and prioritizing intimacy with people you care about, and being polite. How white of you.
Would you say that me wanting my country to maintain its cultural identity is white supremacist?
What you're saying only makes sense if you're trying to defend your own sense of not being a white supremacist. Because what I think happened is the same reason people were xenophobic to the Irish and Italians, right? Until they conform to whiteness, right? Like, I think that until a certain immigrant class has conformed to whiteness, their existence in the nation will appear to be an offense against the culture of that nation. And we saw this exact rhetoric against Italians and Irish in the 1920s, 1910s. We saw the exact same rhetoric against East Asians prior to that. And we saw the exact rhetoric now against Latinos.
I think what you're saying conform to whiteness when I think what you mean to say is conform to American culture.
No. Because they're not conforming to black and brown culture. And black and brown people are still seen as an assault on American culture often.
I don't agree with you on that. I disagree.
Okay, I think African Americans, if you ask them, are often otherized from American culture by merit of their engagement with their own culture. Absolutely. Afro-American culture is seen as other than the general American culture. If you look at white supremacists like Pete Hegseth talking about beardos, right, that is part of the black and brown identity that is being expelled. The understanding of Christianity that white evangelicals in the American government currently are proposing is directly at all.
Guys, here's a story that's guaranteed to divide opinion. A project linked to a white separatist movement in America has connections to an attempt to establish a whites-only community in rural Wales. The organisers say it's about preserving heritage and living among like-minded people. Critics say it's blatant racism and segregation dressed up in a different language. But here's the question I want you to think about and answer truthfully. If any other ethnic group said they wanted to build a community exclusively for people of their own background, how would society react? Would it be treated differently? Would it be considered racist or promoting separatism? I'm not sure it would. It may even get government funding as a friendly cultural initiative. But aren't the rules supposed to be the same for everyone? Or do we apply different standards depending on who's involved? Personally, I think the principle's simple. If discrimination is wrong, it's wrong regardless of who's doing it. You can't have one set of rules for one group and another set for everyone else. Equality doesn't work that way. At the same time, this case raises another issue. Why are groups like this gaining attention at all? Is it because they're driven by prejudice? Because people feel politically alienated? Because of concerns about immigration? Or some combination of all those factors? That's a conversation Britain needs to have honestly, without pretending difficult questions like this don't exist. So where do you stand? Should any community be allowed to choose who can and can't join based on ethnicity? Or should that be unacceptable across the board? Let me know in the comments.
Every accusation is a confession. I will not elaborate.
Yep, time to go. That motherfucker coming over here. Ooh, shit. Hey, Carlo, bitch, look behind you. Ooh, shit, motherfucker.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.